All righty, Rue, guys. Welcome into the Fantasy Coaches Podcast. This is your host, Steve Pintado, and with me, as always, is my main manager, Brian Curtis. What's going on today, Jibs?
It's going good. I'm glad to be back, albeit on a Monday. You know how this goes. But NBA basketball is back. It's kind of the dead season for football, so I'm kind of dragging my feet. But other than that, I'm feeling pretty good with Memorial Day on the horizon.
Yeah. That's for sure, man. Obviously, you guys see I'm a big Heat fan, so that game's going on right now. So I'm hard me not to be doing this right now and watching the game, but I gotta be on here. We took the week off last week, so we got a nice double feature, and tonight's double feature starts with Troy King. What's going on, Troy?
Nothing much, man. That's one. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm really excited to chop it up. I'm also excited about the Heat game too. You know, I'm also a Heat fan, so cross the fingers. We tie the series up tonight.
Hell yeah, man. But before we really get started with the day, let everyone kind of know, what you do in the industry. I mean, you're over the last year, man, you've been blowing up, man. Everyone wants Troy King on their show, talking with him. I mean, you're doing a whole bunch of different things. So let everyone know kind of what you're up to right now.
Nah, man, appreciate it, man. I got to keep my thoughts organized because I have kind of been doing a lot more. So first and foremost, I am a contributor to Football Guys. So that's been awesome. I've been doing that since February. So I podcast with them, and I also write articles. I do a podcast with Dave Kluge on Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. It's a mailbag show. So just like any other mailbag show, if you have questions, we have an email, mailbag@footballguys.com, and we just answer just a series of questions just to help people out with their dynasty, redraft, whatever the case may be. I'm also one of the co-hosts of Fantasy Football Confidential. That's one of my babies. I started that last August. So I do that with John Bauer, Mitch Sorensen, Linda G. We go on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going every other week during the off season. And I just recently, this is not fantasy related. It's just something I do with put people in fantasy. So I do this thing now called Superpower Beatdown with Laquan Jones and Marcus Grant. If you guys know Marcus from the NFL Network. So we actually all three just started doing a comic book kind of anime pod where we rank, let's say for Marvel, right? Our first episode, we put the heroes and the villains in tiers. And then we're going to do a bracket style of matching, people who are similar tier against each other. Then obviously come up with a winner. We're also going to do that with DC, and we're also going to do that for anime as well. So that's something new, something different. So those are the things I'm doing right now.
That's awesome, man. You're a big Marvel guy?
You can't be anime too.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. Captain America or Iron Man, man? Captain America, Iron Man.
Oh, give me Iron Man.
Yeah, Iron Man. That's good stuff, man.
I give one to Demon Slayer or Attack on Titan.
Yo, I love both.
You went deep on me, damn.
Damn, if I had to pick one of them,
just one.
Give me Demon Slayer.
Okay, I respect that.
Because you know why? Attack on Titan too gory, man. I can't just watch that anywhere.
I totally agree with you, man. Not with the kids.
Nah.
I guess I'm a top-headed Marvel guy because I have no idea who those guys are. Honestly, I was like, "What? Who are these guys?"
We're trying to get you in on it.
We'll get him on it later, man. We got him.
You put him on there. I'm gonna come listen to your guys' pod now, just to make sure I catch up my Marvel stuff. So,
of course, we got you, man.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. So, like I said, guys, Troy does a whole bunch of things. So we were really excited to be able to get him on here to talk tonight with us. So before we really get started, one more thing, Troy. I know you're a big Dolphins fan. You can see my blanket or whatever in the background here. How do you think the Dolphins are doing this offseason?
I think we're doing very well, right? So obviously in the draft, we traded back from 3. I was surprised then we traded up to 6, but I am very excited about Jaylen Wado. Obviously, we're reuniting him with Tua. He's a yak monster. His speed, route running, he's just what we need in that offense. I love the addition of Fuller. And I know we've got some offensive line depth as well. I'm very surprised that we didn't add a running back in the draft, but we have some veteran presence like in Malcolm Brown. Right? He's a bigger body back. I think he's going to complement Gaskin really well. Gaskin looks like he's set again to be the workhorse, which it's surprising because again he's sub 200. So I'm surprised that like they want to ride with him. But look, he did very well last year, so I think that he's going to continue to do his thing. Defense. I was surprised when we like let go like Van Noy and things like that. And obviously I was sad to see Bobby McCain, we had to cut him and now he's with Washington. So certain moves, I'm like, I get it from like, business standpoint, but overall I think we are doing really well. I'm excited for the season.
Did you guys lose Van Winkle or whatever his name is? He's like a lineman.
I don't know if we lost him yet.
I think he's there. He's like the backup. He's like a backup linebacker. He plays very good special teams. He was the one who had that like double touchdowns against the Rams. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. One of the best games of the year, probably. Just watching the Rams get destroyed by us, and Tua didn't do much, but we destroyed them. That was a good time to be a Dolphins fan, right then and there. So. But like, let's get started here now with our actual shows today, guys. So. Before we get started with the main topic, we're going to talk about some news. Again, there hasn't been too much going crazy, but there was a big thing today. And it was Julio Jones, obviously telling the Atlanta Falcons, or apparently he's told them a while ago that he wants out. He wants to win. He wants to win a championship. He's 32 years old. He don't got much time left. He's like, hey, get me a championship. You're not going to do it here. Send me off. So, Troy, we'll start with you. Realistically, where could you see Julio Jones going that could still make a big fantasy impact for him?
I would say if I had a dream spot for him, I know it's been popular, I think, on Twitter, but the Chargers. I think the Chargers make so much sense, or the Packers, those two. But I'll start with the Chargers, him alongside Keenan Allen. I believe that, Mike Williams has been fine, but it's, he's kind of more just – he's not a reliable fantasy option. Like, he's good at catching the ball downfield, but he's obviously dealt with some injuries. And I know Julio's dealt with his injuries too, but I just think matching him – with Keenan Allen, as with just Justin Herbert in his second season. Obviously, we know how big of an arm he has, and I think that would be a good landing spot. And I don't have to say much. Let's say Aaron Rodgers stays in Green Bay. We've been talking about Green Bay needing a second wide receiver for a very long time. If we match up Julio and Adams, I don't know what defenses are going to do if you had like that combination of Davante Adams, Julio Jones. So I say the Packers, Chargers would be like my ideal landing spots for him if they can make that work.
Yeah, no, those would be really fun landing spots, especially for fantasy. That's for sure. Jibs, over to you. Same question, my friend. Best spots you think?
I agree with it. I wholeheartedly agree with the Chargers being the best spot. I think him and Keenan Allen will make a dynamic duo back there. It easily replaces Mike Williams, like Troy's point before too, and you don't have to really rely on all the rookie receivers that they were bringing in last year. So you'll have just a dynamic piece right there. I guess off the wall one for me would be what if you went to like the Saints or something, even though it's like interdivisional. But like,
that would be interesting. That would be really interesting.
You also heard like them trying to get rid of Michael Thomas at the trade deadline last year. Maybe they want to do something different, kind of go that way, but you never know. So I want him to go to the Chargers, though. I don't want him to go to the Patriots. I definitely don't want him to the Titans. So those two, get it off your books. No, sir.
I love him in Miami. Can't go wrong with that.
I try not to be a homer, but yeah,
that would be the darkest of deep horses there that would happen if he ends up in Miami. I've heard like the Colts. Cardinals, the Colts. I've heard them. The Titans are a big one. I heard someone talk about the Browns today. I don't see how that would really work. But
me neither.
I've heard people saying about that. There was one trade that I saw on Twitter today where it was like, the Cowboys, even though he doesn't want to go to the Cowboys, Jalen Smith and Michael Gallup for Julio. That would probably work. That'd be interesting. But again, hopefully he stays because I think that's what his best value is, unless he obviously goes and maybe joins Aaron Rodgers if he stays obviously in Green Bay. So it's going to be interesting to see. So hopefully we'll find out. I believe it's after June 1st that his contract is it's only like $7 million against the cap, so I'm assuming something won't happen until probably after June 1st. But obviously, it's the off season, and people got to start talking about things because we need football as much as possible right now. So, Two other quick things real quick. Desean Watson, kind of talked about him a little bit today. He came out and said he still wants to be traded. He's not going to attend OTAs. Aaron Rodgers isn't attending OTAs as well. And then in a little hype train, TJ Hawkinson, his coach said the sky's the limit for him this coming season. So all those TJ Hawkinson truthers there, if you love it, it might be a big season for him. We might talk about him a little bit today. So like I said, we're going to get to our main topic, guys. As you see, I figured it'd be kind of cool to talk about some of the young players right now and fantasy and dynasty redraft, whatever, and kind of rank the last 3 drafts and see, where these guys fit and why we may like them more than others right now. You don't really get to talk about those too often. You talk about their individual selves, but not comparing them to the recent drafts here. So that's kind of what we're doing today. You got quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end here. So I'm going to start with the quarterback position here. You kind of saw my screen pop up earlier here, but we have the quarterback situation here. We did the top 7. I didn't want to go too in depth with the quarterbacks because we could probably talk about quarterbacks all day long. So as you guys can see here, Kyle Murray is sitting at number 1 overall. And I think it's pretty obvious we all have him number 1 overall. He's in the league the longest. We've seen in the last 2 seasons kind of dominate, at least last season, dominate when he's been healthy on the field here. But the guys I really want to talk about are the next 2 on the list here. Guys who were in the 2020 draft, and Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow, we all know, was the number 1 overall pick last year. And Justin Herbert was I think he was a 6th pick, and he was going in late round 2 in Superflex League. He wasn't really high, and obviously he had one of the probably better rookie seasons for a rookie quarterback in such a long time here. But Troy, we'll start with you. Why Herbert overall over Burrow?
Sure. So Herbert, he showed us he's a surprise to everybody, right? Obviously, if we knew Justin Herbert was going to be as good as he was last year, I believe he would have been the number 1 overall pick, right? So, and maybe that's not fair to Joe Burrow because obviously he got injured, but just to me, he had one of the best rookie seasons of like any rookie stepping into the NFL. Like if we're really breaking down the numbers, Justin Herbert was that good. And it's one of the reasons why like people are more down on like guys like Tua who happened to be picked right before him. Justin Herbert, I believe that also the offensive line is much improved from last year. So that's another important factor. And I believe that, we have Austin Eckler. He has Keenan Allen. We'll see if they do anything in the offseason. And again, for my rankings, when I rank people, it's very fluid, right? Because I could change my mind tomorrow. I'm like, oh, this happens. I have Joe Burrow over him. But right now, I saw a full season from Justin Herbert for the most part. And I just believe that I know that Joe Burrow has, Chase now, but I'm concerned about the offensive line. That offensive line, it's a big deal. Things don't work out if your offensive line isn't solid and is protecting the quarterback. So I think that's also a really big part of my analysis. And I know for dynasty wise, things could change with the offensive line and stuff. But to me, Justin Herbert just showed me that he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL within the next 5 years or so. We're going to be talking about him in that tier if he keeps up this pace. So I'm really excited about him.
Exactly. And you have to see that Herbert showed it already. Burrow showed us glimpses that he could possibly do it, but it wasn't fully there when you saw Herbert on the field those first 8 games or so, or 11 games when Burrow and him were both on the field. So that's definitely a great call there. Jibs, kind of a similar question here, to you as well. Why Herbert over Burrow? Is it?
It's an it factor for me, and obviously you could even though Burrow got injured midway through the season, still Justin Herbert from the same stretch of games was having multi-touchdown games, and Burrow was just kind of staggering, albeit he's throwing 50, 40 plus times a game, and he's still kind of coming away with 1 touchdown games. He had one 35-point explosion or so, but I just like the way from week 1 you just saw the confidence there, albeit Chargers offensive line is better than the Bengals, but it's not really that good too because they had offensive woes too. So they're both teams definitely kind of stabilized their offensive line or kind of really tooled it in a sense, but it's not going to be spectacular or one of the top tier offensive lines in the league. But from the foundational pieces on the Chargers, I do like Herbert better, especially given the fact that I know the defense was kind of atrocious last year with injury, but they should be healthier this year. So it kind of gives them a better edge, so he doesn't have to put the team on his back. Even the Bengals, they kind of got some cornerbacks and stuff too, but I still feel like they're a little ways to go.
Yeah, and you have to also remember, like, even when Herbert was playing really well, he didn't have Austin Eckler either. So, like, that has to be, that chemistry's got to be worked in there, and I think it will be this offseason. One of the biggest things why I also have Herbert above Burrow as well is the under pressure situations. Burrow was very bad under pressure, and it has to do with that offensive line, of course, there. And again, like Troy said, that could change over time frame. But again, right now, you have Herbert, who's got a steady O-line. They went out and got a guy in the draft to help assure this O-line up. He already has weapons. He didn't need to go get more weapons. I mean, if anything, Joshua Palmer in the 3rd round, again, he could be a guy who could see an impact right away. But Jamar Chase over an O-line, again, that's still a question mark why you have to protect your quarterback. They had 2 great wide receivers. You didn't need to get Chase. I understand it, the chemistry, but he's going to have chemistry with Higgins. He's going to have chemistry with Boyd already. You don't need to go out and get a guy like that right now, and they went and did it anyway. So, again, question marks, and exactly why the 3 of us both have Herbert at number 2, then Burrow at number 3. So, going over the next kind of group here, Trevor Lawrence, we kind of have him across the board, 4th overall, first number 1 overall pick. Again, we don't know what he's going to do, but he's got that generational type of talent that kind of why I see why we have him at 4 here overall. But the next group is really what I want to get into here, the 5 and 6 range here. Now, Troy, you're hurting me, man, when I saw your ranking. You have 2 at 6, not 5. But, I get it. I do get it. And I see the Trey Lance love there because I love Trey Lance too. But why Lance over Tua?
This was tough, man. It was tough. But for me, it's Trey Lance's rushing ability paired with the Kyle Shanahan offense. Because we've seen last year, right? So we've seen Jimmy G and we've seen some of the backup quarterbacks. They're not as mobile, but we've seen them run the offense. They didn't really have to do much, right? All they did was pitch the ball to the yak monsters, and they did everything. But Trey Lance brings a different element to that offense. Not only can you just dump it off to any of your tight end, your running backs, or your wide receivers, but he can also take off with the ball, right? And that's just a different element. It was already a hard offense to defend, and Trey Lance's mobility just makes it that more difficult. And just having an offensive genius like Kyle Shanahan, that to me, that puts you over the edge of some of these other guys, right? And they traded with us in order to make sure they established Trey Lance as their franchise quarterback. They clearly see something in him. And, in college, I think one of the knocks on him was his lack of production, right? But what you did see from him is that he could be a superstar. A lot of people think he's a little bit raw, and you could see some elements of him just being a little bit raw. But I think that if anyone's going to be able to unlock his full potential, I think it's Kyle Shanahan. So and it really just comes down to just the rushing. I believe that personally, I've been on record saying this, that I think Tua is going to be, a better NFL quarterback than necessarily a fantasy quarterback, right? I think just similar to last year, he's going to be much improved, but I think he's going to do what's necessary to help the team win games. But I don't think he's going to be super flashy, right? He's not going to throw for 300 plus yards every single game. I just don't think that's the type of quarterback Tua is. And I don't think that's what the Dolphins want him to be. So I think that's just part of the reasons why I have Trey Lance over Tua.
Okay, I accept that. I won't take your Dolphins card away from you. You can keep it, man. You showed your worth on that one. I like it. All right, I like it. Jibs, you are in the same boat though with me as Tua as number 5. So why do you have Tua at 5? Do you still have the faith into it? Obviously, I still have.
Yeah, I had the faith in Tua. They vested in him pretty properly, if you ask me, in the offseason and for the future as well, getting some more draft picks. I don't know what the team's going to do with those. Could be offensive, defense, but we'll see. But getting Waddle, getting Fuller, you're getting Parker back. You'll still have Williams for, I guess, a limited role, to say the least. Zeki, you got a young tight end to move along with the team. And then obviously you guys didn't bring any running backs in, but your running backs did a hell of a job not named Jordan Howard or Matt Breida last year. So I think you guys have a good foundation there, first of all, and just getting the speed in the perimeter for Tua will make dividends. You heard the announcer say all year, oh man, Tua doesn't look like he wants to throw those little tight windows, but you get the speed on the outside, you get a couple extra seconds, boom, you got a nice little reception. You may have some more yak, you may have a touchdown, you never know. So for me, Tua, the Dolphins showed that they want to move on with him in the future. There was speculation that they could trade him. I don't think that's going to be the case moving forward. So I have I believe, is high with Tua and fins up.
Yeah, I love that. You can't go wrong with fins up. Yeah. So again, guys, I also have Tua at number 5 on my board as well. And the biggest reason is that I love Trey Lance. I do like Trey Lance. That's why I'm at 6. But when it comes to Tua right now, guys, I think there's so much knock on him to be a real quarterback in this league. You know, he got his shot late October, beginning of November. It was less than a year than his hip injury. And that kind of recovery time kind of takes close to 6 to 12 months to really fully recover. You know, they talked about his deep game. He doesn't have a deep game. Well, he actually had a better yards per attempt than both Burrow and Herbert in college. All 3 of their final years here. And he had Jerry Jeudy, he had Waddle. He had guys that could go downfield and kind of catch the ball. Where did he have that in Miami last year? He had Lynn Bowden. He had Isaiah Ford. I mean, he didn't have players that really could stretch the field and get downfield. Now you add Waddle, you add Will Fuller to the mix here. You add guys who can get downfield really quickly, and I think that's really going to help Tua really reach that level. That why he was drafted 5th overall. Why if he didn't get injured, he could have talked with Burrow about the number 1 overall pick. So I think that's kind of why I'm at 5. Again, Lance's upside could be really great. That's kind of why I have him at 6, and that's why Troy likes him. I get it for sure, but I think Tua could still be that guy. Again, it's a little risky still, but I think he could still kind of bring the fire there. So
you guys had Jakeem Grant. Stop wilding.
Jakeem Grant, great return man. I'll give him that, man. He's one of the better return men we've had in a long time, but he's not a downfield threat like that. Man.
He gets downfield.
He's like
he just can't catch
5'2". Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, give me him in Madden all day. I'll let him be my return man, but I can't trust him as a wide receiver 2 on my team, man. I can't do that.
No.
All right, so let's finish up these quarterbacks here real quick here. Let's see. Everyone had a different number 7 quarterback, which is really cool. So, Troy, why are you a fan of Justin Fields?
Man, I almost Justin Fields, man, I loved him in college, right? To me, he should have been QB2 off the board, right? He's more talented than Zach Wilson. He's more talented than Trey Lance. I solely put Trey Lance above like him and Tua just because his rushing ability, I think is going to run the hell out of Trey Lance, right? I think Justin Fields, he has that rushing ability, but I think he's also just a really good passer. A lot of it has to do with the Bears. I'm not a huge believer in the Bears and their organization. I think they're still kind of a mess. Matt Nagy, I know he was supposed to be an offensive guru. He did really well his first year with the Bears, but after that, it's been kind of a disaster. So to me, I think there's a lot of changes from the coaching staff to like the front office. I think all that kind of needs to be put into play before like I really like ride pound the drum for Justin Fields. I think if some of those things change, then I can see him surpassing a lot of these guys because I just think he's that talented, great. He could just do everything that you want in a quarterback, right? If there was no Trevor Lawrence, I think that Justin Fields should have been the number 1 quarterback off the board. I believe in his talent. It's just his situation. I don't know. He has Allen Robinson. He has David Montgomery in the backfield. Outside of that, they have Darnell Mooney. Let's see if he's going to be a number 2 or not. I don't know. So there's a lot of question marks. I just don't fully trust the Bears, so that's why I have him where I have him.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think your buddy Dave on Twitter today, he's saying that the Bears have not given a Bears rookie quarterback, any help over their years. This might have been their best shot right now with a rookie quarterback, with the most talent he's actually had around him during his first year or two, which is pretty insane that the Bears just can't seem to put talent around their franchise quarterbacks, but at least at a young age. So Allen Robinson's a great catch to have right now to kind of pair up with Justin Fields. So I love that take there, Troy. And Jibs, you have Jalen Hurts, your boy. Is this?
I had Jalen Hurts 6.
Yeah,
Don't you
6?
disrespect me.
Did I have him? Who do you have at 7? Then was it Fields?
It was Fields.
Oh, well, talk about Jalen Hurts though. Talk about Jalen Hurts. We mentioned briefly before, but talk about Jalen Hurts and why you think he can kind of rise to the occasion.
Well, first and foremost, I think Jalen Hurts could be a phenomenal talent. We saw that 3 games sample size where he started and finished the games. I'm not going to count that crap game where he kind of left the game and let the Giants win the division. I mean, the football team win the division. But the guy has tremendous rushing ability, albeit that he kind of has a little problem with his accuracy. But I'm going to give him a pass. Our Eagles offensive line was just demolished by the end of last year and even the start of last year. So maybe give him a healthy offensive line, he can stabilize the pocket. It'll give him actually some time to analyze his reads and make some throws to Davonte Smith or let Rager fly out or just hit it to the tight end. But I just the fact that Jalen Hurts just came up in the scene and had, we'll say, a 20-point games, a 40-point game, and that's just like his third game or his first 3 games in the NFL shows you a lot. So I think he has supreme fantasy like value just because of his rushing ability, and like I just love rushing quarterbacks. Like if they're not going to throw 200 yards. I mean, if they're going to throw 200 yards, but they can give me 80 yards rushing, I'm going to take that all day. You only need a touchdown after that just to have a good day. So that's a new mold. You just got to make it blend in with the new quarterback. I mean, the new coaching staff. So we'll see what he could do. And Jeffrey Lurie and the Eagles organization are putting all their chips on. So why not us?
Hey, man. Hey, Hurts has that potential. We'll see if he can actually, the accuracy was the big issue for me, but he has that potential, especially with a rushing game in fantasy. It's something that you have to take notice of. So that's for sure. I've talked about enough of Zach Wilson, I think, this entire offseason. So we're going to go right over to the running backs.
He's good.
If I talk about Zach Wilson, we could do it for the next hour, maybe. So we're going to start with the running backs now at this point, guys. And this was surprising. This was the only position that we actually all had the top 10, at least in the top 10. We didn't have an extra person outside that top 10. It seems to be pretty obvious who our top 10 is overall here. Jonathan Taylor goes 1 overall. That's a pretty obvious one. Obviously, it seems like. But Troy, we're going to start with you. You have DeAndre Swift at 2. Why is DeAndre Swift your number 2 guy?
And this was tough. The ranking the running backs was tough, but I would say that because one, he's talented, right? And they showed last year. I know there's a new coaching staff. I know there's some things that are going to be changing, but DeAndre Swift showed us how talented of a pass catcher he is, right? He's obviously looked good rushing the ball, but to me, it's those catches. So. And I was teetering between Jonathan Taylor and Swift at 1, but at the end of the day, I'm like, Jonathan Taylor's just too good of a rusher, and I think he's going to be more involved in the passing game. So I think that's why I kept him at 1. But Swift, I think that was really the ultimate reason why I had him at 2, just because he just looked phenomenal. He looked phenomenal catching the ball. I think he's going to be the workhorse in Detroit, especially we'll see how it goes. They have no wide receivers, that's not going to last forever, but really he's going to be the main part. Him and Hawkinson are going to be the show, at least in 2021. We'll see about the future, but he's not going anywhere. He's going to be there. And also the Lions have historically not had a good running back. So to me, they finally have somebody that I think can finally be their go-to rusher. So that's one of the reasons I have Swift at 2.
Are you not afraid of the Jamal Williams 1A starting potential that we've been saying about him?
Absolutely
Jamal
not.
Williams is a goat.
Look, Jamal Williams is fine. I think he's a great backup to relieve Swift, but I am absolutely not worried about Jamal Williams making a significant impact on Swift now.
I love it. I definitely love that for sure. Jibs, we're going to go over to your number 2 here, guy, because, we all have different ones. So Cam Akers at number 2 for you. Yeah. Why Cam Akers at 2?
Dude, this man was stifled by a 3-headed running back core led by Malcolm Brown for a majority of the season. Then they let Darrell Henderson have some thread, and he was doing good, and then the wheels fell off. And then Cam Akers came into the equation, we'll say about week 13, and he just let it rip. Like, I know, he kind of let us down in the championship game. Week 15, I didn't play the championship game, but this man had 86 carries. He was basically 20 carries a game. I want a workhorse running back, and they're hard to find nowadays in fantasy football. Everyone has a committee. I know Darrell Henderson probably gets some carries and whatnot, but Cam Akers, when he had the ball, he let it rip. And you just got to think about it. LA just got a brand new quarterback, Matt Stafford. That offense is going to be humming now. So if you think he had opportunity with Jared Goff, it's going to be 10 times better with Matthew Stafford. More opportunities, more involvement, no stagnant drives. I think the Los Angeles Rams are going to be a very good team for fantasy, and I want the running back leading that team as well.
Whew. Just with a hot take there. Loving it. Yeah, Cam Akers, guys, he has a ton of potential. as long as Darrell Henderson doesn't kind of eat into his work. I mean, you saw at the end of the season, this man, you're giving him, 17 plus touches. I mean, he's working with those touches there. So I can understand why you have him sitting at number 2 right now. For me, guys, I had Clyde Edwards-Helaire, which you guys did not seem to be very high on with me. So I'll go first and then let you guys rebuttal afterwards. So with me, everyone obviously loved Clyde Edwards-Helaire last year. He was the number 1 overall pick in a lot of rookie drafts, and he was drafted not first overall, but in the first round, a lot of redrafts, which again was the wrong situation to go, unfortunately. And I get it. He let a lot of people down, so people are burnt by him right now. I get that feeling on players. That's why I don't trust Joe Mixon ever again. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire, why I love him is that if you look at the first month of the season, he was doing actually really well. He almost had 700 all-purpose yards. The biggest knock, he had 1 touchdown. And, yeah, that's a major issue. But where is he attached to? He's still attached to probably number 1 high-power offense in this league. Did they really bring anyone else in here to really compete with him? Darrell Williams, yeah, I don't hate him as a backup. Jarrett McKinnon, I don't really believe he's a really big option. They didn't bring another passing option really into the game until round 5 with Cornell Powell. I mean, I think this is the year that we had to get Clyde Edwards involved in more in the passing game, and I think that was his biggest issue, that he wasn't involved enough in the passing game. He had times where he was like, oh, he wasn't bad, but he didn't see enough involvement in the passing game. And he saw when Le'Veon Bell came, it just kind of took him down with his injuries as well. He was just never the same in the second half of the season. So people were just turned off by him. But I think this is the reason why you should get back on him, because he's a dual threat guy. He's going to see at least 225 carries this season. And he has the potential still to see 75 targets that we talked about last season, because there's no one else as a number 2 who's really going to step up. DeMarcus Robinson, Brian Pringle, these guys are just not – they're not wide receiver 2s. They're wide receiver 3s or worse right now. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire, there has to be a way for Andy Reid to get him more involved in the offense. And I think because they're high power, they're going to be scoring the ball as much as possible. And I think Clyde will see a touchdown progression this coming season that he didn't see this past season. So it's kind of why I have him at 2, because I think his workload is so safe and he has that upside that I just don't think any of the guys above him really have. That's why I love him. I mean,
I'll jump in. So I am a big CEH guy, right? So when I was doing this list, the problem is that I just like a lot of these other guys better in terms of their opportunities. The thing with CEH is that when it comes to the goal line, the Chiefs always get super freaking cute, right? They just don't run the ball in the middle like most teams, right? They always got to do these crazy reverses and trick plays and all that when it's not necessary. Just hand the ball to your running back and score the touchdown. So for me, when it comes to CH, I always feel like he have to if he doesn't score from the 10-yard line, he ain't scoring. That's the issue. That's the problem with CH, because they're not going to use him on the goal line. And I also think that he's going to get he's going to get more rushing opportunities. I agree with a lot of the points that you made. And it's not that I don't like CH. I just think these other guys that I have ahead of him just have better opportunity. I think they're going to be more the focal point of their offense. And we already know the Chiefs, right? The Chiefs have all these different players that they can get involved in the game. And they're more pass than run. So that all those are reasons why I just have CH where he is. I think he's properly valued now. Last year, obviously, the hype was out of control. You're right, guys were burnt on him. Right now, I think he's in a good place. It's just a lot of these other second-year guys, I think, are just going to just be that much better. And, yeah, I like him. I like other guys better.
No, I definitely get your points, Troy. I definitely understand it. I mean, I could see why people are not scared off him, but just not as high as these other running backs, which I see above him, are really good running backs. So I definitely understand it. Jibs, what about you?
And for me, it was just the offensive line. I know the Chiefs made improvements to the offensive line during this offseason. I think they traded for a pretty nice offensive tackle after that Super Bowl loss. But still, at the end of the day, though, the Chiefs, the Chiefs have the weapons, right? They could blow a team out in the first quarter. They could play a tight game, and then they could play but they won't even play any in the second half. I think the Chiefs are so good that it kind of limits Clyde Edwards-Helaire. If they're playing the Chiefs way, they're not going to run as much. If they play the Chiefs way and they win, like, he's not going to get the field. They're going to get Darrell Williams the carries. You see, like, there's not going to be that many games where they're going to tote him out 20 times. So, like you said, Steve, if he can make that improvement in the passing game, yes, like, I'll be more into Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Me having him at 7, I think I could justify moving him up, yes, but, like, I still have some worries about, like, he has a role in the offense, but I don't know where, like, the whole production is going to come for him if he's not going to get, like, the touchdowns or the receiving work.
Right, and I think the touchdowns are definitely a big thing, like you and Troy would mentioned, especially in the red zone, that they're just not going to run the ball. When they get there, they're going to, hey, we have Pat Mahomes, why do we need to run the ball? So I get it. I definitely get it, but I think there's an upside there that's still there that could be above these guys here. So let's move on to the next group here. You know, obviously Akers, Dobbins, but the guy I want to talk about is Antonio Gibson, the wide receiver running back that turned running back for the Washington football team this past season here. You guys have him at 5, kind of right in the middle, kind of right on that cusp between the two groups here. I think at this point, do you believe, Troy, that Antonio Gibson can kind of take that next level and maybe join the top 3 of this list here possibly?
I think he definitely has the talent for it. I'm just curious how they're going to be using him in Washington, right? So we saw J.D. McKissic be very involved last year. Towards the end of the season, I know like Gibson was really taking over, and I believe that Gibson is still going to be their number 1 running back. But they have guys like Curtis Samuel now. I have no idea how they're going to use him. It's just going to be used just as a pure wide receiver, or they're going to use him out of the backfield like he was using Carolina. We still don't know how. But Curtis Samuel is a guy who's very versatile. I'm not saying like fade Gibson or anything, but these are things you have to think about in terms of the opportunities that Gibson's going to have. And then obviously they have Diane Brown as well. So just the wide receiver core is so much more improved. So because they're so much more improved, you'll have to rely on Gibson as much. Is he going to get as many dump offs from the backfield? Well, curious, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's a gunslinger. And I know he dumps the ball off here and there, but I think Gibson is going to be fine. I think he's going to get his opportunities, especially in the passing game. But just how much of a workhorse role? We've been talking about this, the whole time. There's not many guys who are just that full workhorse. I don't know if Gibson's going to get that workhorse role. I believe he's just going to be very efficient with the opportunities that he's given.
Right. No, definitely. Again, he was definitely a bit of a surprise when he started playing very well, especially in the middle of the season here until he got hurt. But Gibbs, does J.D. McKissic kind of keep him from really extending that next level there in that passing game, or can he kind of not outproduce him possibly, but just keep the receiving targets high enough for him to be successful?
I think it definitely caps his true value to be like close to that like top 3 tier that we mentioned out of this 3 running back class. But we did see him have like games where he was getting 3 or 4 catches. Like I'll take that any day with the monster of J.D. McKissic in the backfield as well. But like I'm not expecting Gibson to have like a 50 catch season by any means. But if he could get to 50, sure, like that's going to take more of him expanding his role. But like to Troy's point, they have a lot more wide receivers. They have valuable players in that game, so like he might not be utilized more. So he's going to have to make his hay on his rushing ability as well. But like I think in like the Washington football team, they have a good defense, so they're going to ride that defense. And what's the best thing for a defense? A good running game. Grind that clock out. Less opportunity. Have less time for Fitzpatrick to make less mistakes. So like I think he'll get used, but the football team has to be really wily, cut down the turnovers, and keep a clean slate on offense.
Exactly, and I think Rivera has to keep Antonio Gibson involved in this offense, even with a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick on there. And that's the only reason I'm a couple of spots lower than you guys do. To me, does he see those? I think he had 11 or 12 touchdowns or 10 touchdowns this past season. Does that come down a little bit because of Ryan Fitzpatrick and the passing game volume there? It's possible. And does he see enough receiving work? That's my biggest thing. If you're thinking at least half-point PPR leagues, is he going to see enough work that makes him see 40-plus targets? It's possible, absolutely. He's got the talent for it, but does Ryan Fitzpatrick do that? Does J.D. McKissic get involved and kind of ruin that for him? That's my biggest thing about him. Like I said, I think J.D. McKissic's contract is over after this season here, so we could be talking about Gibson as a guy who's on the rise going into year 3, but this could be somewhat of a not down season, but less productive than you saw his rookie year, and then he kind of explodes into his next season here. But Brian Fitzpatrick, I think, limits him overall because of the way he likes to throw the ball. It's not a dink and dunk like Alex Smith did. It's that downfield. That's kind of why someone we'll talk about in a few minutes, or the next position, why I love him so much. So going over the last group of this running back core here, we had Harris all at 6, which was pretty interesting here. That was pretty cool. But these last 3 here now, some of the older guys, and I figured at this point, when it comes to running backs, once you're in the league for 3 years, you're old at that point. You're no longer young. So Troy, I'll let you go first. It seems pretty obvious, but why Etienne over guys who are established like Sanders and Jacobs, who are still pretty young in this league?
So I think Jacobs is easier for me to knock than Sanders. So I'll start off with the easy guy to knock. So Jacobs, it's really just that his being capped. I don't know how. I understand how the Raiders are utilizing Jacobs or the moves that they make for Jacobs, right? Jacobs is extremely talented running back, but for whatever reason, they never want to pass him the ball, right? And a lot of people, whether it's on Twitter or at the NFL community, they believe that Jacobs is a capable pass catcher, but for whatever reason, they don't really use him in that role. They normally use 3 down backs. Now they got Kenyan Drake, who's a very capable just starting running back. He's shown us he's a capable running back. So not only is Drake going to be eating into Jacobs rushing, he's also going to be eating into the passing game. So that's going to extremely limit Jacobs' upside. I believe Drake has like a 2-year deal. We'll see if he's around next year or so, but to me, that definitely hurts. Also, their offensive line is worse. They release guys, they traded them. So that's also a huge knock. That one of the benefits for Jacobs, he wasn't getting passing, but he was running behind one of the best offensive lines in the game. So now we have to deal with him running behind a worse offensive line, and he's not going to be getting as many opportunities. That's obviously not a great formula. So we'll see how it is in the future. But right now, that's where I have him. I have him at 10 because he's just so talented. Sanders, however, so I think that he's going to benefit from Hurts in terms of his rushing, just being efficient, because kind of the consensus is that when you have a rushing quarterback, it's better for the running back because it creates more opportunities. But it's been known that the rushing quarterback doesn't always necessarily dump off to their running back as much because they're more likely going to take off. So I'm not saying Sanders a complete fade. It's just more likely that he's going to get less opportunities for those dump off passes versus if he was with a pocket quarterback. So I think Sanders is going to be fine. I just think that his possible dump off, his catching might be a little bit impacted just with Jalen Hurts just being more of a rusher rather than kind of a guy who's going to dump off the ball. So those are some of the reasons. And Etienne, they've already talked about, him taking all of his snaps as wide receiver during rookie camps, and Urban Meyer's already come out talking about how they want to use him kind of in that Curtis Samuel role. He was really disappointed they didn't get Tony in the draft, so they think they're trying to use Etienne as like that hybrid running back wide receiver. So to me, in fantasy, especially in PPR, that's extremely exciting. And they spend first-round draft capital on him, even though they have a productive running back in James Robinson. I think that's extremely telling. So those are some of the reasons why I have him over guys like Sanders and Jacobs.
Yeah, no, that's a great analysis there. And I'm kind of similar to some extent with you. Obviously, I have Etienne at 9 and Sanders at 7. But, Jibs, before we get to me, you have Etienne last. You have the youngsters last here. Why is he below Jacobs and Sanders?
Because he hasn't done nothing yet.
That's fair.
But for one thing, I actually want to walk back that if I had to do it over, I would have Jacobs 10 and Etienne last. But for now, I could put my conspiracy hat on and think John Gruden wants to run the ball 40 times a game and have Derek Carr only throw it 22 times. Can I believe that? They could do that. That could be the Cleveland Browns on the West Coast if you want to think about it. But I'm not really high on Jacobs. He's obviously was an inconsistent runner, or for inconsistent fantasy producer. He's a good NFL running back, but his games where he's good are and bad are like far in between. And you're going to bring a guy like Kenyan Drake in. That's definitely obviously no, pretty much getting paid the same amount. And for me, Sanders, like, he's basically like Clyde Edwards-Helaire if you want to think about it. Like, he could catch the ball, he could run the ball, he could have a good workload. Yes, he's been banged up, pretty much spent like 20 seasons just banged up with injuries, but the guy still finished as an RB2 in 12 games. So like, you could definitely plant your flag there, and probably get some value if you want to suck someone out of a deal. Because like, I know I'm a Sanders owner, and I'm definitely not happy about it. So hey, holler at me. But I think there's value to be had with Sanders. Yes, he's 24 years old, but he still has a couple of good years left. Jacobs, on the other hand, and then Etienne, I think the sky's the limit. I'm just like kind of low on like what his role is going to be. I don't know what the Robinson Hyde, even if you want to call that a thing, is going to be like, how that's going to pan out. But I'm definitely ecstatic to see this guy, the hype train stuff of him working out as a wide receiver, just get more opportunities. I don't know what that'll arise to, because they have a pretty loaded wide receiver core. But if he's getting more opportunity to be on the field with Robinson, that could lead to more fantasy points, in my opinion.
Couldn't have said it better myself there, Jibs. For me, guys, I have Sanders as 8, and honestly, I could see him being higher. The only thing is that he's been injured over the last couple of seasons here. When you see him on the field, when he's actually healthy, he's a really great running back. I mean, his ability to catch the ball in the backfield and his ability to make big open runs and just big runs downfield is fantastic. It's just he hasn't been healthy, and I'm hoping that I'm giving him somewhat of a knock this season because of the offensive line, because of the struggles at quarterback, that things just didn't work out for Sanders this season. I think going into this year, this is a make or break, obviously, season for Sanders. And I think when he's able to get the ball in his hands and do something with it, he's really good. And I think if he can play 16 games or 17 games now, actually, he could be really good. The upside of his passing of his targets, Jalen Hurth, I don't know if he's going to get to him enough, though he saw his rookie season, but I think he's one of the last running backs in this group here, or one of the few running backs in this group you could say he's got the whole backfield to himself for the most part. Not many of these guys you could really say that. He's going to see probably 250 carries if healthy, and that's why I'm still sitting at 8. With Travis Etienne, again, like Jib said, the role is a little strange. We don't know what that role is going to be like. Could it be amazing because he's a first-round talent? If possible. Could he see that passing work and not see the rushing floor? Could he have that Alvin Kamara-like topness, or could it be like Duke Johnson? We don't know still. And that's why I kind of have at 9. Josh Jacobs, I have him at 10 just because Kenyan Drake's there now. And we really don't know what Jacobs' role is in the passing game anymore with a guy like Kenyan Drake there. I still think like a Josh Jacobs, and we'll talk about him later in the summer, in terms of redraft, I think he's still great value because I think he still sees at least 225 carries. But as of right now, if you're looking at these lists here, he's the last guy on the list because he's not saving the receiving floor, and his role is questionable moving forward right now with Kenyan Drake sitting there. So, all right, guys. So let's head over to the wide receiver group here, and this was a bit of this was kind of somewhat all over the place here. I'm hoping I can get this whole thing in here. Let me try to back this up just a little bit here. Let's see here, 160. Yeah, there we go. We have all the wide receivers in this group now here. So across the board, it was pretty obvious. A.J. Brown is the number 1 player we all have on all boards here. But we start to differ right around number 2. And Troy, I'll let you go first. Why a guy like Justin Jefferson, who just had 1 season in the league, over DK Metcalf already?
Sure. I mean, Justin Jefferson, he's also somebody who I think surprised a bunch of people. I believe people thought he was talented, back in his LSU days, but I don't think they expected him to do everything that he did his rookie season. And, obviously he was in discussion for being like rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year, right? So that kind of already tells you how amazing of a year that he had his rookie year. And I think he was just so efficient. Vikings got rid of Stephon Diggs, and we were worried, like, hey, how's the offense going to look with just Adam Thielen? And Justin Jefferson, he slid right in there, and he pretty much took over that role, and he just did an excellent job. And I wasn't expecting it. I was pleasantly surprised by how productive he was as a wide receiver. So to me, and then I know that offense is more, run heavy. So we'll see what happens with that. But Again, these are very, very slight differences. Like if you want to argue DK over him, I'm perfectly fine. But just to me, I'm a Justin Jefferson believer. I'm trying to get him as many drafts as I can, so I just have him slightly ahead of DK.
No, I can definitely understand that. I think you could flip-flop these guys and be perfectly okay having either one of them on your dynasty team or we'll redraft, whatever it may be. But Jibs, why Jefferson over DK with a nod?
Basically, like Troy said, they're all interchangeable besides AJ Brown. But for me, like the reason why I have those two above DK Metcalf is only age and target share opportunity. So Justin Jefferson's obviously 21 years old. I believe AJ Brown without Jonnu Smith, without Corey Davis in town is going to get like 130 targets and is going to be freaking wide receiver 1 this year, probably, or within the top 3 conversation. So other than that, like Metcalf plays on a fantastic Seattle team. Like obviously, like they want to be more running oriented after their offensive woes last year. But I just like Justin Jefferson. Like he showed me the real deal. Pro Football Focus #1 player basically last year. So the kid got it, and he's 21 years old. Dynasty, baby.
Yeah, I actually have a question here from a boy Justin here. And this could say the same for Metcalf, but are you worried about Jefferson in Dynasty with Kirk Cousins' situation right now?
I'm not, because for me, when I think about a quarterback change, right? So Kirk Cousins isn't that elite of a quarterback where I'm like, oh my gosh, like if they don't have, and he's fine, like he did really well, but to me, I know they have Kellen Mond, right? So when Kellen Mond steps in, what is he going to do? He's going to want to get the ball to his go-to guys, right? So let's say he's not as good as Kirk Cousins. We've seen plenty of times in fantasy how quarterback, as long as he gets the target share, that's what I care about, right? So to me, a rookie quarterback, what is he going to do? Or let's say they go with somebody else, they're going to get it to their playmaker. So it's going to be a distribution between Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson. So I'm not too worried about the Cousins situation in terms of dynasty.
I'm not either. He's a young player. I'm sure there'll be plenty of years for them to find the right quarterback if it's not Kellen Mond. So I'm not too scared, but obviously it will hurt his value. But he's a fantastic player, and he will still have the opportunity ahead of him.
Right. Yeah. Usually, for the most part, if they're studs, they're going to find a way to make it work with whoever plays quarterback. For the most part, I mean, it seems Justin Jefferson can do it with anyone. I think. For me, just real quick, personally, DK Metcalf, I have him at number 2. It is strictly because of the way the offensive schemes are going right now. If you look this past season here, I mean, Minnesota, they want to run the ball first. Yeah, so does Seattle. Yeah, I get that. But you look at the games and look how much production came in the second half of a lot of games here, because at some point the offensive scheme changed for the Vikings in the first half to the second half. It was run, run, run. And then they were like, oh, we're down 20 points. Let's throw the ball a lot in the second half. And you saw Kirk Cousins just outmatch his numbers in the second half of games and compared to the first half. And Justin Jefferson, obviously, he saw the benefit of that a lot. The defense is definitely getting a little bit better with Patrick Peterson there now. That's my only thing. I think that the defense kind of toughens up, and they continue to run the ball like they want to. While Jefferson, again, he's going to be great, no issues. But I think DK Metcalf is just Russell Wilson's true number 1 wide receiver, no matter what. While I think Adam Thielen is still a heart and soul of Kirk Cousins' life when it comes to passing the ball, because he loves him so much. I don't think Tyler Lockett, even though he's good with Rust, has that same feeling in terms of like that connection. So it's kind of only reason why I have Metcalf at 2 instead of 3, like you guys might. So over to our next ones here. CeeDee Lamb, we were pretty close on the board here, but Jamar Jefferson, we kind of differ here, and this is because of me mostly. I have him at 9 currently right now, and again, I'll quickly talk about why I have him at 9. To me, he hasn't played football in a year, and I know that's not a huge deal, but to me, that's somewhat of a huge deal. It's been a while. When you see a player, especially in the NFL, not play in the league for over a year, again, we saw Le'Veon Bell, who's a little bit older, though, but that takes a toll, and he's going from playing in college to the NFL. There's a big difference in that, and when the fact that you take a year off, I mean, yeah, he might have been working out, he might have been keeping himself in shape, but playing football is a different story. Actually playing on the field, and the fact that he's going to be seeing tougher competition now, that division is pretty tough. It's not like he's coming into the NFC South or anything like that. He's coming to the NFC North, and that's a tough division right now. And Higgins is there. Boyd is still there. I just don't expect Ja'Marr Chase to see 140 targets, 130 targets in his first couple of seasons because Higgins is there. Boyd is there. These guys have connections already with Joe Burrow, especially Boyd in that slot. Like we talked about last year, Joe Burrow loves the slot. And Higgins is there. He's had that connection. You saw that early on in the season here. I just don't see enough of Ja'Marr Chase in the first couple seasons, especially with Joe Burrow recovering from that knee injury and the way they want to use Joe Mixon to some high extent. And that's the only reason I have him at 9 still. He's definitely going to be someone who probably rises over the next couple seasons, but right now I just don't have him there. But you guys have him there already, and just let everyone know why.
So the way I see it, right, is that even though, and I'm one of the people in the camp of they should have gone offensive lineman in the draft where they drafted them, right? But the fact that they didn't go offensive lineman and they decided to go Chase is extremely telling. That means that they wanted to reestablish that connection with Joe Burrow. Obviously, we know from the LSU days. So he took a year off, but clearly they were fantastic in college. To me, they want him to be the alpha of this offense, right? Even if it doesn't happen right away, you don't spend that draft capital on a wide receiver when you already have 2 talented wide receivers if you weren't expecting him to be the alpha of the offense. So to me, that already is one of the reasons on my art. And also just he's extremely talented, right? He's more talented than Higgins and he's more talented than Boyd. And I like both of them. I think Boyd's role isn't going to change because, like you said, he's the slot guy. So he's not significantly impacted by Chase except for just, I guess, target distribution. Higgins is the one that's going to get the biggest knock, but I think that the offense can support all 3 of them, right? Because you mentioned earlier in the show how many times or it might have been on Jibs, how many times they had to throw the ball. And I think that that's not going to change because the offensive line is still horrible. I don't think their defense is significantly improved. So I think they're going to be extremely pass heavy. So I think that Chase, and I don't know how many targets he needs in order to make a fancy impact, right? Because he's that great of an athlete. I think, he's going to go downfield. He can make plays for himself. So I'm excited about that. So that's the reason I have him at 5. I just believe that he's going to be a very featured part of the offense, especially in the future.
No, I definitely understand your take for sure. I mean, he is a really great, talented wide receiver. Jibs, you want to feed off that?
Yeah, for me, honestly, the main thing will be rapport with Joe Burrow. That's definitely the top tier thing. But I know he's not gonna get 140 targets, but AJ Green had 104 targets last year. So if he could get between 90 in there, I'm happy with that. Obviously, a big thing for me is the age factor. But with the Bengals, though, I believe that actually, let's go back to Chase though. Going back last year, I was hearing oh man, these rookie wide receivers are so good, but Ja'Marr Chase, he's next level. He's above them all. So I can't hear that last year and seeing this guy is a better prospect than Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, and all of them, and not have him within the top 5 for me. So I seen him play at LSU. Yeah, he took a year off. To your year off point, you had Lance in your top 7, and he didn't play last year either. So I know he's a quarterback, but the same point goes there as well. So I think these guys are NFL ready. They want to play. They want to get money. They want to perform. So I think even with that year off, I think he's gonna not blow expectations, but he's gonna be mildly served, and he's gonna be a good commodity for the Bengals. Although it's gonna be a headache trying to divvy up those targets between 3 wide receivers.
Of course,
and I get why you have him at 9.
Nah, definitely. I get why you guys have him at 5 for sure. I definitely don't disagree with your points whatsoever. Going over to the next guy, Davonte Smith, we have him at 7 across the board. Love that overall. But the next couple of guys here, we have a high difference here. And Troy, I really want to know. I don't know because Jibs forgot him at first too. But Terry McLaurin is sitting not in your top 10 at all. Why? I have to know why.
I think honestly, I probably just forgot about him.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Honest, I probably just forgot. That's really what it boils down to. If I had to slot Terry McLaurin, and he'd be a lot higher on the board. I think there were just so many talented wide receivers within that time frame over the last 3 years. I think it was just simply I forgot that he was within there. So I'd probably have him like top 6, top 7, if I'm being real with you. So that's really the only thing.
I figured because I when you sent your rankings, I was like, he doesn't have Terry McLaurin. I was like, I mean, did he forget like he was in that like last group? Because I honestly forgot at first too, and I'm like, oh yeah, Terry McLaurin was like a 3rd round picker in that draft there. I forgot.
Yeah, I completely forgot.
Okay. So we're not gonna go too much because you obviously you said 6, so that's pretty close. Yo, Matt, what's going on, buddy? If you're still in
What's
here.
up, Matt?
All right. So the next guy I really want to talk about because his situation is either people love Deante Johnson or they don't like Deante Johnson because they think he's just a target of value. For me, I love him. I guess I'll start first since I do have him the highest here. When it comes to Deontay Johnson, though, Deontay Johnson, I think he's a really great wide receiver. And people knock on him because he's seeing a big target workload. And, I get it. But, like, he's just really good. I think that you have Big Ben still, and I think he is someone who's just going to see a lot of targets in his career. He's a PPR kind of wide receiver. And he's not a slot guy, which I think is great about his game here. And if you saw the last 8 games of the season, he really turned up after those early on injuries. And again, he has that drop problem. Hopefully he can fix that this season. But, he was a wide receiver 5 over those last 8 games. He played some pretty tough teams. He played Baltimore, he played Washington, he played Buffalo, he played Indy. And again, with Big Ben, he's not going to throw the ball deep. So he's going to see a lot of dunk passes. And again, Big Ben after this season, we don't know what is going to happen. He could just retire, and we could see hopefully not Mason Rudolph, but hopefully someone else in the offense here. And I think Haskins, maybe Dwayne Haskins. Hopefully, I hope Dwayne Haskins can find himself another job. He deserves at least another chance. But I think that you see Juju probably moving on after this season. And I think Deante Johnson is going to be a guy who's like a safety net for whoever plays the quarterback after this and sees that high target value no matter whoever plays quarterback at this point. And that's kind of why I have Matt sitting at 6 personally. I'm a big fan of him. People are down on him, and I love to go out there, and especially in dynasty leagues, to go grab him on the cheap if I can. I'm a big, big fan of Deante Johnson. Troy, you have him at 8. You're probably somewhere in the middle, but Deante Johnson.
I like Deontay Johnson a lot. I think so. Pretty much, he's kind of taken over. I'll say the Antonio Brown role. He's not Antonio Brown, but that's pretty much what he's playing, right? So he plays the X a lot. His rookie year, I don't think he was on most people's radar. And I think that everyone's expecting Juju to be, number 1 guy. He's going to get all the targets. And Deontay Johnson really emerged his rookie year. And then last year, he's soaking up all the targets for whatever reason in that offense. He's the go-to guy. And whether you're a product of volume, whatever the case may be, there's a reason why you're getting targeted, right? It's because you're talented. And yes, he dropped the ball, but drops don't count against you in fantasy. So for me, as long as those targets are going that way, as long as he's catching the majority of them, I'm perfectly fine riding with them. And clearly they kept going to him. They believe in him. And I'm excited about him as well. He's not as big of a name as some of these other guys, but if you keep getting this volume, he could surpass a lot of these guys on the list just because he's getting 10, 11 targets a game. So that's what you want from your wide receiver. So I'm pretty high on it as well.
And Jibs, you seem to be the outside man on him. Maybe it's just that he's just not good enough as his top 10, but.
Nah, I just like his teammate better.
His team, like Chase Claypool. Okay, that's fine. So talk about Chase Claypool real quick because you have him at 9, so go for it.
Oh, for me, he's younger. I know he doesn't play that reception type or receiver role, but Chase Claypool yards per target definitely beats Deontay Johnson by a significant amount. Like I guess 2 yards wouldn't be like it would be small in like metric talk, but like if you're catching 2 yards down the field more, I think that's significant. We saw a lot of deep play threats. We saw his red zone value that he gives to the Steelers offense, jet sweeps, given a big body receiver other than Eric Ebron for the quarterback to throw to. I think that would be viable for a younger quarterback, not named Big Ben, going down the road. I think Deontay Johnson is a great receiver as well. I think they'll blend together as great partners in crime, but I just want to go with Chase Claypool. I think he could be utilized more. I think if he was allowed to and had more opportunity, he could do the same things Deontay Johnson does, Maybe not as fast, maybe not as quick, but sure, he could definitely catch that ball smoothly with no effort.
Yeah, no, he has the physical traits to be a guy like DK Metcalf for sure. So if he can be somewhat to that extent in his second season, I mean, you're looking at a guy who's creeping up boards really, really quickly. So real quick, Troy, we're going over to you again here, but we're going to go to Jaylen Waddle real quick here. You have him at 6. That's outlier at this bottom half of the draft here. And I get it. Please don't take my Dolphins card away from me because I don't have him as a top 10 guy. But why Jaylen Waddle at 6?
Sure. So I'll use a similar argument to me with the Bengals versus Chase, right? There's a reason why when they traded back, the Dolphins traded back and then traded up, right? They clearly had, I believe, 2 guys on their radar, Chase and Waddle. I believe they were the guys. Obviously, there was Pitts talk, but there's no way with all the rumors like Pitts was going to fall to us. I think if Chase was there, maybe we would have went him, but they believe in Jaylen Waddle. And that connection with Tua, I think he's exactly what we need in that offense, right? What the Dolphins need in that offense. Fuller, he's a down the threat guy. Parker, he's fine. He's a good X, but there's no one that's on the team that's going to be able to do what Jaylen Waddle does. I think they're going to get very creative with how they use him. And again, there's a bunch of talented guys on this list, but I think there's a reason why the Dolphins selected him. And I just think that he's one of the best wide receivers. He was definitely one of the best wide receivers in this class. And I just think that he has the talent, and people keep comping him to Tyreek Hill, right? If he's even 70% or 75% of Tyreek Hill, he's going to compete with one of these upper echelon guys. So to me, I've been a Jaylen Waddle fan for quite some time. And I just think that if he can produce the way I think he's going to produce, then I think he's worthy of being that 6th spot. He's going to be with that team for a very long time. And I just think that he's very versatile. And when it comes to versatile players, they get a little bit of bump, right? So these are some of the reasons why I have him where I have him.
I mean, I hope you're 100% right. Of course, as a Dolphins fan, I mean, even as a fantasy fan, I obviously have a lot of shares of Jaylen Waddle as well because he just happens to fall at the end of round 1 in a lot of rookie drafts. So I definitely love your take on that here. So we're going to scoot over to the tight end position now at this point because people want to know about some tight ends here. And, there's definitely some different situations here. We have clearly you guys have Kyle Pitts at number 1 overall, which I get. So I guess I'll go first because I'm the outlier on this situation as well. And for me, the biggest thing, and it's not the biggest thing, it's just the one thing is that Kyle Pitts hasn't shown it on the NFL field yet. That's what it is. I mean, you could talk about his athletic ability and the fact that he's just on film. You see him and he's just like, wow, this kid can play football. But for me, until he can show it on an NFL field, I still have TJ Hawkinson number 1 overall here. You saw him do it last year. You saw him improve last year. That was the biggest thing that, he dealt with some drops. He dealt with just not being on the field. He was able to play all 16 games this season here and actually make an impact in fantasy. And that's basically the only reason right now I have him number 1. I think he was a top 10 pick in terms of NFL drafts as well. And I think with another season, especially with the lack of weapons in this Detroit Lions core right now, I think he's in due for a really big season, someone who could see 125, 130 targets possibly this year. And it's wild to think that, but Jared Goff has produced tight ends over his career and with LA. Tyler Higbee, even though he didn't have a great season this past year, still threw him the ball a lot. And I think the way that the Detroit Lions are set up right now, TJ Hawkinson is still in that situation where I think he deserves the number 1 slot until obviously Kyle Pitts can show in the NFL that he deserves that number 1 spot as well. But we'll talk about Kyle Pitts real quick here. And Troy, is he for real for you? Is he someone you're maybe in? Let's look at in terms of redraft right now. Let's look in terms of dynasty. Is he a guy who's a top 3 pick right now and say a non-super flex league for you?
A non-super flex league,
Yes.
in like a rookie draft?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So in terms of that, his value is just absolutely astronomical. And I believe a lot of it's warranted. He's probably one of the best tight end prospects ever. And I don't think it's crazy how that's not even a hot take, right? It's not hyperbole. He's one of the best tight end prospects ever. There's only so much I can say about the man. And here's the thing. Yes, he hasn't stepped on the field, right? So that's why I want to temper my expectations. And it's well noted how normally rookie tight ends don't produce, but he was taken 4th overall. The rumors about Julio Jones not being on the team. If Julio Jones isn't there, then Pitts' value is already sky high. I could only imagine if Julio actually gets traded, how it's going to be. So I think that I still think he's going to make he's going to make a very strong impact this year, but I believe like year 2, year 3, that's when it's going to get real scary. So, and Hawkinson, I love Hawkinson. I think he's extremely talented. Obviously, his rookie year was a letdown, but last year he was very solid, and I think he's going to continue to be solid. And tight end's a crapshoot, right? There's not many solid options. So if you see someone who's talented, someone who's going to get targets, then those are valuable gems in fantasy. So those are some of the reasons why I think Pitts is going to get that opportunity that a lot of these other guys aren't going to get.
Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely don't disagree with you on that. Jibs, in terms of like a redraft side of things, is he someone who people may be reaching for? Or let's say Julio's not there. Is he worth a situation where like you're talking in the Darren Waller, George Kittle range?
Oh, heavens no. I would not risk that.
Even with Julio gone.
So you want to tell me you're going to pick round 3?
Round 3, if Julio's gone right now, we'll just throw Julio's situation.
No, I'd rather go get me a running back or a premier wide receiver and get a tight end later. I'm not doing that.
Okay, Troy, real quick, you too as well.
I'm not taking Pitts over George Kittle or Waller. I think he's number 4 for me right now.
In that range though, like they're going in like that round 3 range there. Would you late round 3 with no Julio, would you take Kyle Pitts?
Yeah, I think I would.
Would you take Kyle Pitts over like a Keenan Allen?
It depends how my team's set up. Calvin
Ridley or Kyle Pitts with no Julio.
Calvin Ridley.
Okay.
Yeah, give me. I'm not going to get too crazy with that. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So people who are expecting that to happen, that how it could fall possibly. So let's look at one last guy here in this group here. And it's one of our biggest differences here. And it seems to be Irv Smith Jr. Troy, you have him outside your top 5, which I get it. But why is he outside your top 5? Because he's in line for a bigger role this season.
I think the problem is that I think that last year we thought the same thing. The year before that, we talked about it too, right? Irv Smith, it's always like he fits the profile. He's a big, athletic tight end, and he looks good when he gets the opportunity. It's just a question of how much opportunity he's going to get, right? To me, yeah, Kyle Rudolph's gone, but who's to say that one of their other veteran tight ends isn't going to be randomly eat into his work? I don't know if Kyle Rudolph was the end-all, be-all, right? So if Kyle Rudolph, just because he's a vet, is the reason why you're being held back, then who's to say that one of these other vets isn't going to eat into his work? So, and that's what I believe, right? And like, I think Tyler Conklin is one of the tight ends that's on the team. And you just don't know. I just don't believe that like the offense relies on the tight end as much for targets. We know it's the Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson show. So he's going to be the 3rd option at best. And we know that they're a rushing team. So it's going to be like Dalvin, then it's going to be Thielen, then it's going to be Justin Jefferson. And we're hoping that Irv Smith could get some targets in the mix, right? And hopefully their veteran tight end doesn't eat into that work. So those are some of the reasons why, so here's the thing, and this is a great point. I think that Irv Smith will be fine, but I think he's going to be he just doesn't have some of the upside that the other guys have. So I think he's okay. If he got the targets, I think he would capitalize. I just don't know if he's going to get those targets.
Right. And I definitely don't disagree with your points whatsoever there. Jibs, you're similar to my range. I'll let you go first. Why Irv Smith's still sitting at 4 for you?
Other guys.
What? I didn't hear you.
The other guys stink, to be honest. I'm not gonna risk I'd rather take Irv Smith and take my 30 vacated targets or whatever, and probably try to bank on some red zone opportunity with that, given his age factor. I know Cole Kmet, I have him 5, and I know I have Noah Fant provides higher receiving opportunity. I know the offense definitely is going to get a lot more healthier with Sutton returning, so we'll see how that plays out into effect. But I think third-year breakout for a tight end. Let's make it happen. Come on, Irv Smith.
That's what kind of what I'm hoping for. And I get, like I said, I talked about Justin Jefferson earlier about the targets and all that and how that could affect him overall, which, yeah, that plays into somewhat of my role when it comes to Irv Smith. I would have considered having him higher, to be honest, if the targets were actually there, because I think he's a really talented tight end. I think he'd really produce in this league if it was a very pass-heavy offense here. Like if he was on Atlanta, I'd be really thrilled to have a guy like Irv Smith because, yes, Kyle Rudolph, we talked about Irv Smith, breakout season. Yeah, but Kyle Rudolph was still somewhat there. And you can't, obviously, the 30 vacant targets there. It would have been, 60 targets for him, possibly something like that. I think 67. Yeah, that's not a lot of targets still. But the last 3 weeks of the season, you saw no Kyle Rudolph there. And you saw him just jump. I mean, he had 202 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, he was a tight end 3 with Hot Rudolph those last 3 weeks of the season. Again, I don't want to base completely everything I'm talking about over those last few weeks of a season because obviously they were playing a lot of shootout games. But he's going to have the targets to himself this year. I mean, Tyler Conklin is there, yes. I don't think he's well enough to really eat into that big of a role of his offense there. And they don't have a really number wide receiver 3 on this offense here. So I think Irv Smith is in line for 65 to 70 targets. And I think that in his third season, again, some tight ends take time, and they do really take time. The third-year breakout is where it's a big situation here. I think Irv Smith, with his ability in the passing game, I mean, his numbers are somewhat similar to Kyle Pitts. Probably not as great, but they're very similar. So I think Irv Smith can really take it to the next level here, seeing the full workload of the starting role of this Minnesota team. So it's kind of why I'm sitting at 3. I think he's in line for that big breakout this coming season here. So that's my point on him having a number 3rd option here. So, and I think at this point, I think we're going to wrap things up here, guys. A little over time here for the day. Jibs, you have a question? Are you saying goodbye?
Yeah, I got to go to bed.
All right, Jibs. Jibs has to get up at 4 a.m., guys. So, Jibs, you go, and me and Troy will finish up the show today.
Peace, Troy.
Have a good one, bro.
Yes, Jibs is he's got a 4 a.m. Ice cream call, so he usually doesn't stay up this late. So he's I saw him struggling a little bit there in the image of him in the video. So, but Troy, man, we do really much appreciate you jumping on, man. This was a lot of fun talking to these young players with you. Just again, let everyone know, where they can find you out on social media and anything you might be working on that people should kind of take notice.
Sure. Well, again, thank you so much for inviting me onto the show. You guys can find me at King Mode on Twitter. You can also find me. I'm a contributor to Football Guys. You can find my work there. I also podcast with them on Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern with Dave Kluge. We do a mailbag show. I'm also one of the co-hosts of Fantasy Football Confidential. We go Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well as I'm one of the co-hosts of Superpower Beatdown. It's not a fancy show. It's like a comic book show. I do that with Laquan Jones and Marcus Grant. We're going to be doing that every other Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, yeah, I just appreciate everybody's support. And, again, thank you so much for having me on, Steve.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Troy. Like I said, you were great to talk to, and we'll definitely hopefully get you back on in the future. So, and guys, I appreciate you guys for listening in tonight. This was a lot of fun talking, the young players with you. We'll be back on it on Thursday again this week here. So tune into then. But, as always, go check out our website at www.thefantasycoaches.com. You can follow the Twitter over at Coaches Fantasy. You can follow me personally at Coach Stephen P. If you want to follow Jibs, you can go check him out at Hot Take Honcho. And again, guys, thank you for listening. Tune in until next time. We appreciate you guys, and take care and have a great one.